Joining us now, Congressman Greg Stanton. He's a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee and a Democratic representative from the Phoenix area. Congressman, thanks for being here. I understand the argument many Democrats are making that if you don't get these concessions from Republicans now to extend Obamacare subsidies, a lot of Americans are going to pay big prices, and a lot of them may end up losing their insurance at the end of this year. But federal workers and stranded travelers are already paying the price, and now we see the president taking more power by appropriating money himself to pay the troops. What do you tell the people who are suffering now and the people who are concerned about the constitutional order? Why is this worth the price?
Well, look, the people of America know that the Republicans are in charge of this government right now. They have the majority in the House, the majority in the Senate. Obviously, President Trump is in the White House. They control everything. This is their shutdown, not ours. But if they want our support, then they need to really listen to our priorities. And our priorities are providing health care to the American people. We know right now people are getting their insurance premium notices, and over 24 million people are going to have their insurance premiums doubled. Over 4 million people are going to be forced off of health care because the premiums are going to be too high. This is a high priority for us. We cannot delay this until after a 7 or 8 week short-term CR. People are getting their notices right now. They're losing their health insurance right now. By the way, that's on top of the decision of the Republicans to take away health care for almost 15 million Americans with the Medicaid cuts that were made during the One Big Beautiful Bill. It's an assault on Americans' health care, and Democrats are going to stand up and fight and say Americans deserve affordable health care, and that's going to be our priority.
Okay, there's talk in the Senate about a one-year extension of those subsidies. That's what your colleague, Congressman Lawler, is pushing in the House. But Minority Leader Jeffries said that that's a non-starter. He's not interested in engaging with that. But if the House is presented with a deal like that, a one-year extension of those subsidies in exchange for a continuing resolution, is that something you would support?
Well, look, I'm not going to negotiate the deal right here on national television. Both sides need to get to the negotiating table. Democrats are coming back to Washington this week. For some reason, Mike Johnson has canceled another week of votes. This will be the fourth week without Republicans present so that we can actually have a good negotiation, a good discussion. We will reach compromise, just like Kevin McCarthy did with Joe Biden when you had the debt limit debate. You remember that? Joe Biden originally didn't want to negotiate. Kevin McCarthy insisted on it. They got together and they reached a reasonable bipartisan compromise. We can do the same thing this week, right now in Washington, if Republicans would just return to Washington and let's have a good, real negotiation.
Okay, the president seems to be enjoying the shutdown a good bit. Other than saying he's targeting Democrat agencies and firing workers in those agencies, he now says he's identified the funds necessary to pay U.S. troops during the shutdown. This is something Democrats were pushing for in the form of a standalone bill. Speaker Johnson said that was a non-starter for him. Tell me about what you think about this move the president has made. I'm sure you believe that the service members ought to be paid. Is this an acceptable way in your eyes to do it?
Well, this raises another point of why Republicans need to be in Washington, D.C. We should be working on other issues. There's a lot of other issues that Americans are facing that we could be working on even during the pendency of the shutdown. Obviously, the bill to pay the American troops is a good bipartisan bill. It should be put forth before the American Congress. It would pass overwhelmingly. In terms of the president doing unilaterally, he hasn't really presented how he's going to do it, where the money's coming from. So it's a little too early to comment about that. But it's important that our American troops do get paid at all times, and particularly right now.
Okay, a growing number of Democrats and now some Republicans are expressing concern about deploying U.S. military troops to American cities. But there are also lots of Republicans and independents saying, look, if these Democratic governors and mayors would just cooperate, this would be unnecessary. You're the former mayor of Phoenix, and of the more than 200 sanctuary localities, jurisdictions in the country, not one of them is in Arizona. This is an issue that has sort of had bipartisan support in the Grand Canyon state. Why shouldn't the folks in Chicago and Portland and elsewhere just cooperate?
Well, look, this is an issue in which it really goes to the core of our form of government. Can an American president, without the support of a governor or a local elected official, bring in the federal troops? Portland is one example. He's described Portland as a war-ravaged city. It's clearly not a war-ravaged city. The court over and over has said it's illegal what the president is doing. Now he's trying to do an end around that by bringing National Guard from California into Oregon. The president should respect the court order, respect the law. And when a court has said that this is illegal, you cannot unilaterally do this against the will of the governor, the president needs to respect that important court decision.
Okay. Your delegation is short a member. Adelita Grijalva has not been sworn into office since she won a special election there on September 23rd. Speaker Mike Johnson saying that his hands are tied on this issue until Congress is back in session. Now, it has not escaped the notice of a lot of Democrats and some Republicans that her vote also happens to be critical to a discharge petition that would force the release of the remaining files about Jeffrey Epstein and his crimes. Are you one of those that says that that's why, or do you think that's ancillary to these considerations?
Well, first off, the Speaker's rationale for not swearing in a duly elected member after almost 3 weeks after she overwhelmingly won that election is literally laughably hypocritical. As you know, in April, 2 Republicans from Florida were elected in special elections, and they were sworn in the next day in a pro forma session. We've had 6 or 7 pro forma sessions since Adelita was elected, and yet he has not sworn her in at any of them. She needs to be sworn in immediately, regardless of the Epstein files. In Arizona, we're getting hit hard by some real serious rain and flooding. And a member of Congress needs to be in action, supporting their community by coordinating state and local and federal resources, working with FEMA to make sure that there's deployment of resources to help the people of her community. So there's a real cost by Mike Johnson's unwillingness to seat a duly elected member. And yes, she has indicated that she would sign on to the Epstein file, be the 218th person to sign on to the discharge petition as relates to the Epstein file. That is not a reason to subjugate democracy. She has been democratically elected by the people of Arizona 07, and she needs to take her office now such that she can have staff and start advocating for the people of her district, people that need services from the VA or the IRS, et cetera, all the constituent services that we do. They deserve that, and they are not being represented right now.
Okay, Congressman, thank you. All right, America, if you ever sang along with Tempe's own Gin Blossoms while rocking down the Price Freeway, you would know him already. But if you don't, there he is, Congressman Greg Stanton. We thank you. Coming up.
Hey, Jello.